Hello and welcome to Masterclass. I am Katlego Msomi. Life has a way of throwing us down sometimes before we find our feet. Some say through perseverance and determination, we are able to learn and succeed through our mishaps. Today we are joined by co-founder of the Creative Council, Rand Noina, who will share a bit about his journey to success and give us some insight on learning through failure. Rand, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Rand, we're talking about learning through failure. And a lot of people, like myself, often wallow in that failure when it happens instead of taking the lessons and moving on. What are the steps?
It's such an amazing topic to talk about because I think we've created a society where we view failure as taboo. You know, if you fail,
Yes.
it's a bad thing.
You shouldn't fail.
And the reality is that without failure, there would be no innovation. Because what we're actually saying by innovation is trying to do something different. When you do something different, sometimes you'll succeed, and sometimes you'll
won't.
fail.
Yeah.
And when you fail, you've got to take the learnings from your failures. And that's why you mentioned you wallow in your failure. Maybe that's the first step, is learning how to wallow for shorter in your failure.
Okay.
And then you've got to learn how to deal with failure.
Yes.
It's part of life.
Yes.
It's part of innovation. It's part of success. I can't tell you the number of times that I failed. In fact, I fail every single day. I still fail every single day.
Rand, I want you to take me through your failure experience and how you moved from that failure to the success that you have right now.
So how about we talk about probably my biggest failure in my life, which was in 2000, in the year 2000, where I lost everything. We had an internet business. The internet business went bang in the dot-com bubble.
Yes.
And we lost everything. So you want to talk about failure? Try running a business for 3 years. Try having 30 people working for you. And try losing it all. And having to mortgage your house and mortgage your car and go back to live with your parents.
Sure.
That's failure.
Yeah.
I let down every single one of my developers. But I got up, I dusted myself off, and I started a new adventure with all the learnings that I had underneath my belt. And that's when we started Creative Council. And there's no way that Creative Council would be where it is today if I hadn't failed in my previous venture.
Through that experience. But while you were going through that failure, Rand, what was going through your mind and what pulled you out of it?
That's the problem. That when you're going through that failure, it feels like you're in this room and the walls are closing in, and you feel like you're in this downward spiral. And you know, you look around you.
Pick you up.
Yeah, you look around you and everyone else is succeeding.
Yes.
And you're the only one that's failing. And I believe that that process to success is filled with failures, and that you only actually, or I can say that I've only ever learned anything from failures. I've never learned anything from successes, because successes make you arrogant and confident, and you never learn from success. So you've got to learn to take lessons from failures. And you know, I often talk about building character, and the fact that character is more important than wealth in achieving wealth.
Yes.
And the only way to build character is to get the battle scars. And how do you get the battle scars? By failing.
Rand, there are people that go through failure, that life humbles them, but even when they move out of it, they still go back to the same mistakes. They're still arrogant. They do. How do those people move through life?
But that's silly. You know, if you can't learn from your mistakes, then it's pointless making mistakes. I believe that you should probably make mistakes in such a way that the mistakes hurt you so badly that you never ever want to go back there again. You know, it's like almost like training a dog, so to speak. You know, the dog does something wrong. We give a dog a bit of a slap, or we shouldn't give a dog a slap, but we do. And then what happens is the dog never makes that mistake again because they're so scared of making that same mistake. And that's how we should, in the business place, in the workplace, that's the principle we should adopt. The principle says that we make mistakes, we've got to learn from our mistakes, and we should never repeat the same mistake. And if you keep repeating the mistake, then you've got to take a close look at yourself.
That's very true. From the failures and the lessons you learned in running your IT business, what are you doing differently now in running the Creative Council to ensure that you don't move back into that same situation?
So the failures that I had in my IT business were failures from 15 years ago. And to be honest, what I did was in the 1 and 2 years after those failures, I applied those learnings. Okay. But bear in mind that I'm on a growth path, as my business is on a growth path, and that I'm now making mistakes today that I'm learning from today, that I won't make the same mistakes in the next 1 or 2 years on this journey that I'm on.
Right. So we're constantly making mistakes.
If you're not making mistakes constantly, you're not learning and you're not growing, and you're never going to do anything amazing. You've got to take risks. And risks, by nature of the very word risks, mean that sometimes it'll work out, but most of the time it won't. And the champions are the ones that can take the risks, bang their heads against the wall, take the learning, get up, dust themselves off, and live to fight another day. And that's what makes magic happen and magic entrepreneurs. And like I said to you at the beginning, in this society, we have this stigma attached to failure.
Yes.
And we shouldn't. We should celebrate failure. Because if you celebrate failure, then you'll encourage more people to take risks and do amazing things. And then we'll be able to compete on a global scale.
What are some of the misconceptions that are out there with regards to being successful?
So I love it because people always say to me, oh, you know, you're so successful. And that's because they see me on the cover of a magazine or on a TV show or see me at one of my talks.
Yes.
And they say, wow, you're so successful. It must be so nice to be you. What they don't realize is that I climb a mountain every single day. And that 2 seconds that you see me is when I'm at the top of the mountain taking a look around before I climb the next part of the mountain.
Next one.
So I think to be successful, you've got to work very, very, very hard. And you've got to appreciate that you will hit certain peaks along the way. It's just one of those things. And you've got to celebrate those peaks because rest assured that success comes with hard work. And as soon as you've climbed the one peak, you're going to start climbing again the next peak and the next peak and the next peak.
Ren, have you ever thought of giving up?
Yeah, very often I think of giving up. But there's an inner spirit in me and there's a fighter in me that says, you know, it's okay, like you said, it's okay to wallow in your failure for a little bit. I think that's part of the mourning process or the healing process. I think that's the body's way or the brain's way of dealing with failures. It's actually got to take time to realize the consequence of failure, which comes from the way that you feel. But then, depending on how big the mistake is, it will determine the amount of time that you're allowed to wallow, so to speak.
Yes.
And then what you do is that fighter comes out again, you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you live to fight another day. And you do it better than the day before because you've got all the learnings. And you've taken all the learnings.
That's true. When you're in a situation where you have a loved one who's probably going through such problems within their businesses or in their careers, what sort of support should one give from your own experiences, maybe from the support that you got from your loved ones? Is the tough love route the best way to go, or the I sympathize with you, let's wallow together for the next couple of months and then you'll pick up your feet again?
I can't comment for everyone. I know what works for me.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing that's worked for me is I've chosen the most incredible wife. I have a wife that I know will support me in whatever I do. I have a wife that has a way of giving me perspective. So I think the first part is the selection of the loved one.
Yes.
And make sure that it's someone who's there for the successes as well as for the failures.
The failures as well.
And then, look, what works in our relationship is that my wife just reminds me. She just constantly reminds me of what I said before, what I did before, how I got up. You know, she doesn't wave inspirational quotes in my face or anything, but because that wouldn't work for me.
Okay.
But for me, she keeps reminding me of, like, you've been here before and you got up and you did something better. So why can't you just do it again?
Just do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she does this every day because, like I said, I fail every day. I succeed 10 times a day, but I fail 10 times every day. And it's human nature that failure is much harder on us than success. I mean, if you took a success and a failure and they were both equal in magnitude, you'd forget about the success quite quickly, but the failure,
It stays with you.
stays with you.
Yeah.
And humans are actually programmed like that. They're actually programmed to forget about successes and remember the failures or to feel the failures harder. That's how we're programmed. I'll give you a perfect example. Say that you trade the stock market, and on one trade, you make 100 Rand, and on another trade, you lose 100 Rand. Which one will you feel more?
The losing
The
100
loss.
Rand.
Sure, you'll feel the loss a whole lot more. And that's how we're programmed.
Yeah.
And I think that humans are programmed like that in order to make sure we take the lessons from our failures.
Rand, we've got a minute left. Any words of inspiration to anyone who's sitting out there thinking that they're failing and they can't see the light to their success?
If you're not failing, you're not succeeding. It's as simple as that. And let me go a step further. I invest in a whole lot of entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurship in this country, and I invest in a whole lot of entrepreneurs. And I'd much rather back somebody that has failed than somebody that's only just succeeded. So you've got to learn to take the lessons from your failures, but remember that failure is the first step to success.
Rand, you've been so inspirational. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see more of you on the show.
Thank you very much.
And that was Rand Noina, who's the co-founder of the Creative Council, telling us how you can succeed from all the failures that you go through in life. From me, Katlego Msomi, and the rest of the team, it's goodbye.